Hi, class. Welcome to our weekly discussion. For today, you have the Emperor's Club movie, which is one of my top 10 favorites ever. Why? Because it goes, you know, it goes pretty deep, and it draws a parallel to the Ring of Gyges, which is, embedded in your Plato reading, that deals with morality and justice. So it's a deeper theme, and just want to say, yeah, it was back in 2002. It's about a prep school, all boys, St. Benedict's Academy. Well, what I want you to do is just imagine, let's say you're not a boy, I just want to imagine that you are at this school receiving this type of education. Put yourself in their shoes, okay? That's what I want you to do. And before I even go on, though, it's helpful to know that you should not be listening to this video until you've already seen the movie. Because right there I put, first, watch the Emperor's Club movie, then, you'll get a full impact of the movie. I didn't know if I shook that. It showed up as an arrow. And then secondly, you listen to me explaining it. So that being said, love the movie. What to do? So yes, William is the professor, and Sedgwick is one of the students. Okay, so it's even though there's a lot of other students and they'll contribute as well, you might say that's the main student that the movie revolves around. So let's go back. So now let me kind of dive you into the part of Plato's dialogue in the Republic, where Plato's brother, Plato has a brother, he introduces us to him. His name's Glaucon, and Glaucon basically is an antagonist to Socrates, and what Plato is trying to do is tease out an idea. Why even be moral? Literally, what is the point of doing good things? Why do I got to do this? Why do I got to form my character with these virtues and treat other people nicely? Like, who cares, right? That's kind of what Glaucon's arguing. And then you're going to see how Socrates interacts with that. But let me just read you a little bit. So, playing devil's advocate, Glaucon puts forward a hypothesis that egotistical power-seeking in which we have complete freedom to indulge ourselves might be the ideal state of existence. Just imagine, that's you. However, the hypothesis continues. Reason quickly shows us that others might seek to have the same power, which would interfere with our freedom and cause a state of chaos in which no one was likely to have anyone's desires fulfilled. So we compromise and we limit our instincts. Justice, or a system of morality, is simply the result of that compromise. What was justice in the beginning of the semester? I told you, just a balance between good, bad, right, and wrong, right? The reason we have justice, or the concept, is because we have other people that we have to deal with. If we were alone on an island, you might not necessarily have to have justice, even though it's possible you can have an unjust act against yourself. We're typically talking about other people. So Glaucon's unpacking that, saying, yep, we got to compromise. We got this system morality called justice. So, and he says, it has no intrinsic value, but it's better than chaos and worse than undisturbed power. Think about that. Better than chaos. We'll take another debate that's not part of your reading. That'll come later on in history, but Locke versus Hobbes on human nature. Just in a nutshell, Locke would say that human nature is inherently good. You start off with a blank slate, tabula rasa, and then you experience the world around you, and you collect these experiences, right? But you start off good. You have an inherently good nature. Thomas Hobbes would say, no, you're born inherently evil. Literally, if left to yourselves, you will be bent on destruction. Eventually, you'll harm yourself or other people. In order to illustrate that, a lot of us have read the book Lord of the Flies in high school. And if you haven't, watch the movie. It is awesome. I'm not going to tell you what happens in the movie, but it's going to be leaning either towards Locke's view of human nature or Hobbes. Either born inherently good or inherently bent on not good, which is, evil. And I'm not saying like evil like you're Hitler, nothing like that. Meaning, you will have a tendency to be ultimately selfish. you will be self-seeking to the point where somebody else will probably eventually get hurt or have hurt feelings because of your selfishness. Think about it more along that lines, okay? And if left unchecked, some of us will literally harm other people. That's why we have justice, okay? So now we'll go back to Glaucon. So he says, to illustrate this point, Glaucon tells the story of a shepherd named Gyges who came upon a ring, which is at his behest makes him invisible. Just think about this for a minute. If you could have a ring and it could make you invisible, what would you do? Me? I mean, is it tempting to you think, I'll just rob a bank. I'll just choose a billionaire who's some literal idiot who doesn't care about anybody, because it's like Robin Hood then. You're stealing from the rich, giving to the poor, except for this time, you're not giving to the poor, you're giving to yourself. So just think about you rob a millionaire, right? You take a little bit of his money. Not all of it, but he wouldn't even notice it, right? Or you go to 20 billionaires and you rob them. None of them will notice it. And then all of a sudden you're rich. You can take care of your family and your friends and you're happy. And yes, right? Just think about that thought. You just add it. Or if it's unlike mine, you do something else, right? But now imagine everybody else has that thought and everybody has the ring. It's mind blowing to think that way. But it's kind of fun, right? Like if you had this ring, think about Lord of the Rings, the movie. And if you haven't seen that series, I apologize. I feel really sorry for you right now. Let's just take a moment to mourn. No, I'm just kidding. You got to go watch that series, Lord of the Rings. It's awesome. But there's a person in there who has a ring like this. So you might say Tolkien's, the originator of these movies and books, he borrows from the ring of Gyges from Plato. He's literally taking what Plato said and putting it in that movie. Schmeagly, or what's his name? It might be his name. I might be wrong. But he finds a ring and he's an innocent hobbit, right? And then I won't ruin it for you if you haven't seen the movie. What happens to him when he has this ring and he has unlimited power? What happens to him? So anyway, let's just say, okay, yeah. So we'll go back to this invisible ring Gyges talks about. He uses it to escape the external sanctions of society, its laws, its censure, serves his greed to the fullest. Glaucon asks whether it's not plausible to suppose that we would all do likewise. Then he offers a thought experiment that compares the life of the seemingly just but unjust man who is incredibly successful with the life of the seemingly unjust but just man who is incredibly unsuccessful. What does that mean? In the first scenario, you have somebody that looks really good on the outside, right? But in the inside, they're morally corrupt. But they're successful. He compares it to the other person who's seemingly unjust, meaning on the outside, they look like they're having a really hard time and things are not going well for them in society. But on the inside, they're really morally good. And he says, which one would you choose? Which one would you want to be like? You want to struggle, but in the inside, you're good? Or do you want to be super successful on the inside, you're kind of corrupt? Let's just say you only have those two choices. Which one would you choose? Socrates is going to weigh in on this, right? Glaucon's going to ultimately say, hey, not only would I choose the first scenario where I'm successful at everything I do, and who the hell cares what kind of morality I have on the inside, he's not only going to say he does it for himself, he's going to say all of us would choose that. All of us have this inherent nature that would lean towards that first option. We'll see what Socrates says later, and that's part of your reading, and I won't give it away, but that's what you'll have to do. What does Socrates say? And again, these are on pages 173 to 176. Or you can look at the video, or both. What does Socrates say to that? Which option should you choose and why? So basically, let me read you a few things before. So Glaucon's story of Gyges' ring is meant to show us that all people believe in their hearts that injustice is more profitable than justice. Meaning, I'm going to say all people, and this is his argument, that you and I think that in the end, as long as we're successful, that's all that really matters. You got to do whatever you got to do to get there. Numero uno, me number one, right? That's his argument, right? Now, again, during this whole semester, one of my greatest themes is, what do you think? Forget about me. What do you think about what Glaucon offers as his argument? Do you think that the first option is the best or the second? Think about that on your own. Is there counter arguments to that? Is it always hold? Are there scenarios where you bend those rules or those options? Glaucon argues that the unjust life is better than the just life. The unjust life, where you do things wrong, just as long as you get successful, he says that's a better life than worrying about achieving virtue. It's his view, right? Glaucon tries to show us that the seemingly unjust but the actual just man, compared to the seemingly just but actually unjust man, is happier. So he's going to say, hey, the person who bends the rules and gets what they want, as long as they have a successful life, they're the ones who are happier on the inside. But the person who has life falling apart around them and they're virtuous on the inside, they're not really happy. That is something that I want you to think about. Like, let it sink in. Let's say that you're a good person, but you're totally broke and you're struggling. You get parking tickets. I mean, you just have the worst thing happening. Somebody breaks into your car. Somebody steals your car, right? Somebody does something awful to you. And let's say, super worst case scenario, let's say somebody in your family dies. Let's say you get raped. Let's say somebody comes into your house and robs all your valuables. I mean, just say worst case scenario, but in the inside, you're a good person. Everybody knows it. You love everybody. You have compassion. You take care of everybody else before yourself. Glaucon's going to say, you're the fool and you're unhappy. Your life's falling apart around you, but you're the one achieving this virtue. Does it really matter in the end? Now think about that compared to what Socrates might say. And yeah, it brings in another issue, which we'll cover later, the problem of evil. And we won't go into a lot of detail with it, but I do in my intro to philosophy class, the problem of evil. Evil things happen to us, right? All the time. People tell you to F off, cut you off on the freeway, do all these harmful things, and you might be thinking, no, I got to be virtuous, because in the end, that matters most. So you might say that's Socrates' view. Glaucon's going to say, idiot. He goes, do you really think that matters? You're still going to have to endure evil from day to day, and it really doesn't matter if you're virtuous or not. Just get ahead in life, whatever it takes. Even if other people have to not benefit from you gaining something, who cares? Just step on them a little bit, because after all, people are doing it to you. Just let that tension sink into you, right? Glaucon argues that justice is not intrinsically good. He does not think justice is good in and of itself. He just thinks it's a necessary evil that we have to endure because we live with other people. In fact, there's another thing that I won't go into now, but we're in depth. But there's a guy named John Paul Sartre. He was an existentialist atheist. He thought that hell was other people. Now, he didn't believe in hell and heaven and God and angels and all that, but he thought hell's real. It's called other people. I have to deal with them. There's a very fascinating play about this very thing, about his view on hell and other people. It's really fascinating. Every once in a while, this play will surface in your local community. Believe it or not, it'll be out of a movie house or a show. Let me stop my phone. Excuse me real quick. So, anyways, going back to the necessary evil, dealing with other people, and that's what Sartre would say. Glaucon thinks that a man's getting away with injustice makes him worse. No, he thinks a man or a woman or anybody getting away with injustice makes him better as long as it benefits them, as long as they're successful in this life. Who cares? Okay. Socrates insists that there will be justice only when reason rules. That's true, right? It's the only time we're going to have that is when reason rules, and reason's going to dictate that, hey, I shouldn't be doing this if it's not right. I should be pursuing virtue. Okay. So you might say Gyges uses this ring to escape the laws and the morals of society to serve his greed, and that's what Glaucon's arguing. That is, you might say, the bottom line. Socrates urges that it's that It's advantageous to be moral. He thinks it's good. Glaucon says, no, it's not good. Okay? And then Glaucon says that immorality, is these wrong things that we do with this invisible ring that we have. Because keep in mind, in the original story that Plato talks about, what is what is the person with the ring of Gyges do? Dude, he deceives a queen and murders the king. He takes over the kingdom. I mean, this guy literally does evil towards somebody else. What does Glaucon say? He's done nothing wrong. He's got ahead. He was successful. There is no immorality. Whereas Socrates would most certainly say there's something going on there wrong. And does Socrates actually convince Glaucon that it's advantageous to be moral, to do what's right, to pursue virtue? No, he does not. And so that's kind of the tension point that you're left with when you do this reading. So now let's say you've seen the movie, you've listened to me, here's your assignment, okay? Your assignment is now I'll read this to you. It seems like a lot of questions. They're actually not hard. You read the movie, you've done the reading of Ring of Gyges, you'll be able to weigh into this pretty easily. You're just going to have to think about it, right? Glaucon tells the story of a shepherd named Gyges who comes upon a ring, makes him invisible, uses it to escape the external sanctions of society. We already saw that. Glaucon asks whether it's not plausible that we do likewise. And then, here's your thought experiment before you post on the discussion forum. And I make it simple for you. I say option A, the life of the seemingly just, meaning on the outside, this person looks just, but on the inside, they're not. They're totally corrupt. But they're incredibly successful. Option B, the life of the seemingly unjust, meaning you got problems, following you throughout life. You're suffering, right? But on the inside, you're a good moral person, or you're at least aspiring to be a good moral person. You're trying to achieve virtue. You're trying to avoid doing harm to somebody else, but you're not really that successful, right? What option would you choose? Okay, those are the two options: option A, option B. Which one would you choose and why? Would you? Is there a tension point? Do you choose one option until something happens? Could you give a counter argument? You might put that in your answer. 2 and 3 should be super easy. If you see the movie and you know the story of the Ring of Gyges, William is the teacher, right? What option is he? It should be real easy. It should stand out. Sedgwick. What option was he? Put it this way, William and Sedgwick, they're polar opposites in that movie. So option A and B, you pick one, you're going to have the other one for the other person, okay? So options 1, 2, and 3 should be pretty easy. 4, what is Socrates' final answer to Glaucon about the two options above? Which one does Socrates choose and why? Why is it beneficial to pursue morality, okay? 5, do we want to live a good life, an examined life, or do we want to be successful at any cost? At any cost. There's a goal that, is in front of you, whether it's education or you becoming a business owner, or you becoming whatever it is, right? Is that the most important thing in your life, whether it hurts other people, or is it to pursue virtue, to live the unexamined life, meaning you ask questions about everything. If it's wrong, you literally do not do it. Why would this matter? Why would this question by Socrates matter, right? Think about it. Think about moral things, bioethical things. Think about environmental harm that comes to animals, women getting raped, cloning, abortion, end-of-life decisions, people taking their own life, suicide. All of these absolutely horrific and messy issues. This is what Socrates is getting at when he says the unexamined life. He's trying to say, ask questions about all of those areas and let your reasoning guide you. That is the master who guides all of us. Reason, right? Not emotion. I challenge every single one of you listening to me right now with all those issues that I've mentioned, whether it's harm to animals, suicide, rape, abortion, cloning, anything you can imagine, any ethical dilemmas, business dilemmas, not what you feel. but what you think, what your reason, how is that guiding you? We could feel all kinds of things all day long. I just feel that that's wrong. But until you've engaged in reason and rational thought, are you in line with Socrates or not? And you might say, if you're guided by feelings and emotions alone, and you jettison reason, what if everybody else did the same thing? So you might be thinking, who cares? This is what I believe. Exactly. What if everybody else felt just like you? Reason took a back seat. We all were guided by just feelings and emotions alone. What do you think would happen? I'll just tell you right now what would happen. A lot more people would be dying. A lot more people would be being harmed, right? So Socrates would challenge me, you, your mother, your brother, your aunt, your sister, your cousin, all of us. He would say, let the ultimate master be reason that guides you. So when you think about that, when you think about number 5, that's what it's getting at. In other words, if you come front and center to one of those ethical issues I mentioned, you think to yourself, I've held this position for a long time and I thought it was right, but you know what? I really thought about it. I really weighed the evidence and now I think it's wrong. Turn from it. Don't continually do something wrong when you know that it's wrong. Do what's right and avoid doing what's wrong. That's what Socrates is getting at. That's what this whole thing is getting at, this movie. The Ring of Gyges, doing the right thing always, even when nobody's looking. Wow, that's a earth-shattering concept, right? That's called integrity. When you, on your own, know what's right, but you still choose what's wrong, that would be a lack of integrity. But if you had integrity, you might say, nobody's looking. Nobody's looking. Do I do this thing that I know is wrong? Or do I just say, no, I got to do what's right, man, even though no one's looking? You would say you have integrity, okay? So I challenge you. And again, why do I go at great lengths to present this? This is one of the golden nuggets of your entire semester, right here, right now, right inside that story that Plato offers, right inside that movie, right inside your own life. Stop where you are and say, am I doing anything that's wrong on a continual basis? That's a habit that could be forming inside of me and molding my character, leaning towards what Sedgwick did in the movie. Or no matter what cost, am I going to be like William? And, even if you're not a professor or teacher, but am I going to do the right thing? That's what's before you. That's what's before your entire life. And that's why 5 has such a profound impact. 6, does the film resolve this tension? What tension? The tension of option A and B. Does it ultimately resolve it, or does it poke holes in both sides? Or, for example, if you say William has one of the options, does he go against that option? You know what I mean? Like, or does Cedric? I mean, or is there, or in your own life, do you say, look, I usually do this, but every once in a while I do that? Like, that's what they're getting at in 6. Is that tension get resolved, or does the movie leave it up to you to decide your own fate as far as option A and B being consistent with either one of them? 7, the moral indiscretions in the film seem comparatively minor. Hardwick bending the rules to, so basically William Hardwick, that's his last name. He bends the rules to help Sedgwick, and Sedgwick cheats in a competition. The filmmakers, though, construe these as life-defining character traits. Life-defining, like existential, like this is super, ultra, mega serious, right? Is it? Is it life-defining character traits? Or the people that make the movie, are they overreacting? That's for you to decide. Do you think what happens in that movie between William and Sedgwick defines the rest of their life for them or not? And that's the deeper impact of what Plato's getting at. He's getting at it inside your life, by using Socrates as his dialogue with, having the dialogue with Glaucon. You might say, why does this matter to me? This stuff was written 2,400 years ago. Well, it actually seems like it really does matter, doesn't it? And in that sense, how will it guide your life going forward? And then 8, this is the easiest of all, respond to another student. You're going to have other students weighing in on these points differently. Maybe you pick something that stands out to you. So that's about it. I love the movie. I think it's fun. Watch it. It'll get serious. And then on another video, outside of this movie, but related to the movie, that school, the actual education that those boys get is awesome. And I make another video down at the bottom of our website, our syllabus, my favorite school that I've never been to. What? Yeah. So I make a video right here talking about it. And it relates to the school in that movie, the liberal arts education. I think it's profound. I love it myself, and I've been doing it for over 20 years. That's why I'm a philosopher doing a PhD in philosophy. But if you're interested in my favorite school that I've never attended and why, I'll give you some links and videos, but you can check that out. Otherwise, just to summarize, first thing to do is watch the movie, then listen to me lecture, then answer your questions, okay? There are 8 questions. Some of them are super easy. You'll answer it within like 30 seconds. And then a couple of them are going to make you think deeply about your own life and how this movie impacted you. With that being said, enjoy, and any questions, just let me know.